Hello and welcome to Art History Online, a case study in differentiation by Marissa Yurko. You've been tasked with designing and teaching an AP art history course, but with the onset of the pandemic, many of us have switched from an in-person format to a blended learning model or to 100% distance learning. Whether your class sits right in front of you or you've never even seen their faces, you can maximize student achievement by providing more individualized instruction. Meeting students where they're at helps reduce redundancy and aids targeted remediation. This presentation compiles advice from art teachers, curriculum specialists, and instructional designers on how to use technology to enhance differentiated instruction. Teachers can differentiate according to their content, their process, and their product, according to the student's readiness, interests, and their learner profile. You'll start with learner analysis. To determine readiness, interest, and learner profile, you need to conduct some pre-assessments. For readiness, those will be pre-tests. You might conduct a single test at the beginning of the course or brief pre-tests at the beginning of each unit, though most teachers opt for the former. Students are unlikely to know much specific information about these topics prior to this course, so time may be wasted on regular pre-testing. Include multiple choice questions for vocabulary and concepts, as well as short answer questions to gauge analytical thinking and writing prowess. To determine interests and build learner profiles, you'll need to conduct surveys. What do you know or not know about the learners, the performers? What classes have they had which may support background knowledge, such as world geography, world history, or English language arts? Do they have an IEP? What is their comfort level with and accessibility to the available technologies? Why are they taking this course? What do they plan on doing with this learning in the future? These will typically be self-reporting tools, but may also mean looking at records such as transcripts or talking to other art teachers or even parents. You may notice that and find out through surveys or through course proceedings that students have certain biases and attitudes about art which are common in the traditional Western aesthetic. Often people in this culture have a learned respect for technical skill, realism, and figurative work, but are less appreciative of certain styles, approaches, and sources. Additionally, many of the artworks address racy or controversial themes. You may need to teach a degree of cultural sensitivity, even facing up to some of your own prejudices. Your task is to engender art appreciation. The creators of AP art history content continuously revise their canon of 250 works to reflect changing perspectives. You must choose your model for designing instruction. In a linear design instruction, major subdivisions of the course are identified and then divided again by important ideas into modules. Modules are further divided into topics. Each topic has an instructional event, or a series of them, followed by assessment. Students must successfully complete the assessments before moving on. This is the unit module topic approach, or UMT. Branched is similar, but if a student shows a propensity for topics in the module, they can skip ahead. Conversely, if they experience difficulty, they branch backward for remediation. Though it is concordant with differentiated instruction, the branched model is challenging and time-consuming to produce. Ideally, you can accommodate this to some degree as needed. Not pictured here is a learner-directed model. In this module, students set their own goals, pathways, and sequencing. It takes a very self-regulated learner to succeed at this level. Whether you choose the linear structure or a branched approach, you will then need to consider how you will break the curriculum into units. Most AP art history teachers work chronologically through the 10 content areas, but others arrange the material by theme. A chronological approach will appeal to your logical thinkers, but a themed breakdown will be appreciated by your global thinkers. In either case, it's important to continually tie the bigger themes throughout the topics. These big ideas are what make the content relevant across disciplines and to extracurricular settings. The jury is out on whether or not a synchronous course component is necessary for well-differentiated instruction. What is for sure is the importance of interaction, the perception of social presence to learner motivation. Under social constructivist theory, students will learn better if they are building knowledge in a community. Create discussion posts in which students share ideas and feedback. Have at least a few assignments which involve small group collaboration. Virtual meeting platforms and editable, shareable online documents make for easier teamwork. One of the great conveniences of asynchronous distance education is flexible pacing. Students can work when they have time. Some students will release all the modules simultaneously, but most opt to open just one or two at a time. It is harder to adapt or modify the material as you go along if it is all published already. Deadlines and regular reminders of upcoming assignments help students regulate their progress. Many teachers conclude that the traditional giant tomes, such as Gardner's Art Through the Ages, were overwhelming for most high school art students. Many students simply do not do the reading, maybe because it's too dense, maybe because it's too dry. You may even toss out the textbook entirely, but there are probably some learners in your class for whom this format is a valuable resource. Consider some more approachable texts, including The Annotated Mona Lisa by Carol Strickland, Gateways to Art by DeWitt, Shields, and Larman, and A History of the World in 100 Objects by Neil McGregor. These visually rich texts break down content into more manageable chunks. McGregor's book in particular ties in with probable student background experience, providing real modern-day connections to historical artifacts, such as the credit card. One of the great things about ebooks is the search function. Oftentimes, you can also highlight and download notes from the book. You also cannot lose or damage an ebook in the way you can a physical paper book. In addition to a textbook, include other multimedia resources to increase interaction and engagement. Use technology to provide multiple pathways to connect to content, options for the creation of products, and assessments. Though many of the assessments will be open-ended writing assessments, fill in the blank and multiple choice produce a quick and easy snapshot of performance. Tech tools make for easier grading. You can even use online rubrics to run the quantitative calculations for you. Video resources abound. Try Khan Academy and others. You can even modify videos to include quiz questions and links. Many of your learners will prefer different modalities and ways of thinking. Graphic organizers and interactive note-taking can help students to chunk information, make connections, and organize their thinking. Try diagrams, flashcards, or a cross-impact matrix, among many other things. Throughout the course, your assignments should be rigorous and respectful in regard to learner capacities. You're aiming for zone proximal development, in which students are given moderate challenges suited to their individual levels. Flexible grouping is a good way to sort students by needs. For example, form, content, function, and context, 3 pillars of the big ideas, are arranged into from the most concrete to the most abstract. Assessments will tell you which students need more practice with form or content and which students are ready to tackle function or even contexts. Scaffold and chunk information so that students build on background knowledge. Critical thinking skills are an obvious part of AP Art History, what with all the visual analysis. Be aware, however, of one common mistake when doing assignments. Because more novice students are often in need of foundational knowledge, teachers assume they cannot engage at higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Critical and creative thinking is for everyone. Yes, there is some necessary memorization, but don't leave these higher level thinking tasks to just the gifted students. It's not respectful. As you design instruction, note that Generation Y is, on the whole, more oriented towards visual media and prefer learning by doing. Usually field trips are recommended, and although augmented and virtual reality can certainly enhance the distance education experience, there is currently no parallel replacement for seeing real art in person. Dale's cone of experience pictured here gives you an idea of how best to convert working memory to long-term memory. The more interactive and real something is, the more likely it will be to sink in. However, this is not always feasible. You can see here that videos, especially ones without too much distracting information, are often better than reading. Responding to content is crucial, whether it's through written, live, or recorded format. Performance projects in which students make a model or design an exhibit, especially in answer to a real-world problem, are going to produce the most durable learning. In addition to peer feedback, you'll need to conduct regular assessments in which you provide specific constructive criticism. Formative feedback is more actionable than summative. Giving students an opportunity to rework assignments based on your advice will produce better learning. Here I want to show you a module I built for the compare-contrast objective. This is a big assignment, so students would need to do this after being introduced to the 250, although they should be doing these assignments as they go along. So here is a Google Classroom example of how a AP Art History class might be structured. This one is done chronologically with the following areas throughout each unit: engage, learn, practice, and show. Here towards the end is the compare and contrast assignment, which we'll take a closer look at. In the engage section, I review goals. I give estimates for how much time it's expected to take and an overview of the unit. This ties into those bigger ideas. And then we have engage. So they have an option between watching these two different videos. The artworks are different, and so they can choose the ones they enjoy more or the ones they need more review with. And then there are these optional note-taking Venn diagrams. In the next section, learn, we have some more videos, and this is a tiered activity. So students who need more help with the basics are going to be doing the form video, and then the ones who are more advanced can do the function or context. And then here we have practice. So there's a rubric, which is introduced, those should be familiar with at the beginning, and they choose a list of artwork, a pair of artworks from this list I've assembled from the 250. So this is a bit of a shortcut. And I included little snapshots, little thumbnail pictures, so that they don't have to just drag this from memory. And these are links, so they can go to information on these artworks as resources. Whoops. All right, and then we have, so then they make their own annotated slide or a Venn diagram. Here are some examples, so students can get a better idea of what their own work might look like, what the expectations are. And then they share, in this section, they share it in a discussion post. They need to respond to someone who did the same set of artworks and someone who did a different set of artworks. There are rules for discussion. And then we have this choice board assignment, and I'll just go straight here. This is a interactive choice board, so students won't be overwhelmed by the different options because they won't be able to see the things if they don't click on it. So they're only supposed to choose one. So here's more information on how the AP exam looks, some guiding questions, and then here's the choice board and how to use these. So, and then in each slide has a link to the rubric, which is at the end. But say you chose the timeline, you like the sound of this, or the remix, which is where you're putting two artworks together based on the form, content, context, and function. Copycat, which is a very authentic assessment because they're talking about copyright, since artists often draw on influences from the past. And then this one, echoes of yesteryear. So it brings you to the slide with more specific information, such as the page limit, more specific questions. Each of these has a link to this, which gives specific guiding questions. And then they would compare a modern event to an event in the past, or this is a Beyonce's performance, which looks a lot like this artwork, which is one of the 250. And then, okay, so I don't like this assignment. I'll go back to the choice board and maybe I'll take a look at a copycat. So I've given these different options, or they can come up with their own. This is where they write a trial transcript of a copy. And here's the rubric. And then the rubric within Google Classroom, I don't actually have to calculate. I just Click on the differentiation